There are some Buddhist monks that live in India who have learned to do near impossible human feats. As part of their training, they must transcend the world of limitations. Limitations that seem set by our bodies. They learn to control their minds and in turn control their bodies. They are placed in situations with dangerously low temperatures involved. These monks must then use visualization to keep their body temperatures up, and in some cases they must heat and dry cold, wet towels or clothes. If you watch them, in a short period of time, steam will actually start to rise from the cloth and it will completely dry. This may seem like it is something fictional, but it is something that happens. It is not an isolated case. The interesting thing is that you don't have to study this for years and years to finally tap into a power like this. It is a power that anyone can understand and use. Athletes use the power of their minds to help them achieve personal victories during athletic events. Many of them will tell you after accomplishing something almost miraculous that they had been in that exact situation many times before they ever encountered it in real life, because they had spent time visualizing themselves in that position and succeeding. They already believe they can do it because they already have in their minds. This makes the impossible look easy. This concept takes people from being an amateur to being a professional. Amateurs wait until they come across a situation before they worry about it. Professionals deal with it multiple times before they have to. It is why they handle the pressure and stress with finesse. To master the mind is one of life's greatest feats. If you master your mind, you can master anything. The thing is, even a kid can use these techniques. To illustrate this, I have a story from my youth. When I was 12 years old, I had a really big problem. Well, actually, it was a bunch of really small problems. 55 of them to be exact. I had 55 warts between my two hands. This is pretty much a social disaster at 12 years old. I'd already been to the doctor to have my warts frozen off. I don't recommend that, especially not 55 of them. 3 months later, I was a little discouraged when only 4 of the smallest warts had been affected and had disappeared. So my mom recommended I read a few pages from a book that she said may be able to help me. By this time, I was willing to do almost anything. In the few pages I read, it told me that I could use my imagination, the power of my mind, to heal problems in my body. I possessed 3 traits that made me want to do this. I was open, I was creative, and I was very desperate. Those are great traits, by the way, for getting any success. So the book told me to imagine those warts disappearing. Well, I was young, so these imaginings I did for 5 minutes faithfully every night became very interesting. However, no matter what I imagined happening to them during that time, after each session, I always ended with the result I wanted. My hands being wart-free. I did this every night for 3 months. Now, mind you, I didn't see a lot of results during that time. However, one day I noticed my warts were looking different. They kind of looked sickly. Over the course of the next 2 weeks, every wart I had disappeared, including my seed wart. Your mind is the gateway to all success. This means that all success begins in your mind, which leads you to greater things. However, most people don't even know how to properly use their minds. As a result, they unknowingly use their minds against themselves. For example, have you ever been worried about a situation that you felt could be problematic, and then you start imagining what other people will say and do, and what you will say and do in your defense, and pretty soon, you have created a situation with all the worst possible scenarios. Then, is it any wonder, when someone approaches you in real life, that your greatest fears concerning the circumstances become reality? Most people use this technique regularly. Now we just need to learn to use it positively. Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you can't, you are right. If you think something is impossible, it will be. Your limiting beliefs about anything can lead you to get the exact opposite of what you want. If you believe you don't deserve love, but yet you seek that, you may continually get into bad relationships. If you believe that money is hard to earn, then you will limit your capacity to obtain and keep it. If you believe you aren't talented enough to do something, you won't even try. These incorrect beliefs are almost as powerful as correct beliefs. Your mind doesn't just believe what is true. Rather, it believes what you tell it is true. Your beliefs will either hold you back or propel you forward. Sometimes people struggle with believing in themselves. They believe other people are capable of accomplishing something, but they don't believe they can. They stand on the sidelines of life, resenting everyone who achieves what they dreamed of doing and think those other people just had a lucky break or were just more suited for it. This limiting belief is one that causes so many people to lead lives of mediocrity, confined within the prison of their own minds, when they have the key to open it and free themselves. The key is to see yourself as that person. See yourself as possessing whatever traits you need to succeed. Even if you currently lack some of them, picture how you would be if you had them. Arnold Schwarzenegger, who has had a lot of success in very different fields, says, "What you do is create a vision of who you want to be, and then live that picture as if it were already true. Every day, in your mind, act as if it were already your reality. Drive through the mansions and pretend you're heading to your house. Get ready for a date as if someone had already asked you out. Imagine the presentation going perfectly and that you land the biggest client of your life and get promoted as a result. Why think little? You can accomplish that without thinking. If you're going to think, then think big." I have read many books over the years on how to tap into the mind's power to get what you most want. I read one that is good for helping you figure out your passion and true desires and then helping you gain the courage to achieve them. Former Miss America Charlene Hawks writes in her book, Kissing a Frog, "What would you do if you knew you could not fail? The next time you feel like you are sleepwalking through your life or that it is just passing you by while you are practically standing still, I want you to stop and ask yourself that question. What are your true dreams and goals that you have been keeping buried because of a limiting belief? I want you to ask yourself what you would do if you knew you could not fail. Go ahead, stop the audio and ask. Or wait until later when you are in a better position. And then write down the thoughts you come up with. Literally write them down on a piece of paper. It is a proven fact that people who write things down are more likely to get what they want. Harvard did a study on their graduates and found that those who wrote down their goals made on average 10 times more than those who didn't. So write it down. If you want to, you can type them, but get them somewhere besides just your head. I'm guessing this will be an enlightening activity for many of you. You will be amazed at what flames will be lit or relit when you realize what you are really interested in. Let that become a driving force for good. I then want you to evaluate each item you write down and start with the 3 things that are most important to you, most worthwhile, and still realistic. When I say realistic, I mean that it isn't likely you are going to play professional basketball at 95. There are things that really are outside the world of possibilities. No matter how much you think about it, you aren't going to teleport yourself from New York to London. For some of them to be realistic, you may have to think of ways of accomplishing them that are a little outside the box. For example, the Wright brothers wouldn't have gotten far if they had wanted to fly, but thought they had to figure out ways to become like a bird and grow feathers. No matter how much they had imagined this happening, it wouldn't have. And they would have died without accomplishing their goals. Instead, they figured out how to build a machine that used the principle of birds in flight and then gained the ability to fly. Don't think about how impossible it is. Rather ask yourself, how can I accomplish this? Your mind is the starting point of success. However, it is not the end point. Believing is not enough. This isn't something mystical or magical. For every thought we have, a certain amount of work also needs to go into it. When the power of the mind is combined with the law of action that goes with it, you will become unstoppable. People who achieve high levels of success don't do it accidentally. Visualization is a form of work. It takes effort to think about what you really want. It takes effort to write down your goals and dreams. This is why some people never do it. It then takes practice. Once an athlete visualizes themselves making important shots or passes, they practice doing that over and over again in real life. There's a quote from David J. Schwartz, author of The Magic of Thinking Big, that says, "Belief triggers the power to do." Once your mind believes you can do something, it will take care of triggering the rest of you to get off the couch, use the right position to make the shot, to say the right words, and to do whatever else you need it to. Your brain controls everything in your body. This is why, if you believe something, the rest will follow. Your relit passion may include applying for a different position at work, asking your boss for a raise, starting a business, going back to school, asking someone on a date, or writing a book. Make sure that while you work hard, that you also work smart. Be intentional and think about the options you have and choose the best route for you. Then start down that path. Just do it and see what happens. You may fail, and you will learn a lot, which will increase your chances of succeeding the next time. And in most cases, if you fail, you should try again. Otherwise, the failure was wasted. Look at what you truly desire to do and do it. Don't die with regrets of what you didn't do. Did you know that most people, when asked at the end of their lives what they most regret, don't list things they did? They usually list things they didn't do. They think of the opportunities that were missed. Don't be one of those people. For those of you who think that it really is impossible for you to do something because you just aren't good enough, I would like to share a couple of stories of people who succeeded by believing in themselves and acting on that belief. Oprah Winfrey is a woman who has accomplished a lot. Do you know how she did it? She came from a hard life. She started further behind than most people do, yet she has pulled out further ahead than most people will. When she was a young girl and watching how life was, she used to tell herself that her life wouldn't be like that in the future, but that it would be better. Something that she has done to help her get her dreams is she created a vision board. Now, in case you don't know what that is a board where you put pictures of how you want your life to look in the future. This is the time to go all out and not be conservative. Don't be discouraged either because you don't have those things now. Instead, just keep envisioning them in the future. You will be amazed at how many of them will come true if you put those pictures on there and then put it in a prominent position and look at it. I heard one person say they put it on the fridge because they go there the most often. Another person I know put it over the top of their TV so that they would remember that their dreams were more important than watching TV, so they would stop wasting so much time. You can put it wherever you want, but try to look at it frequently, at least once a day. It worked for Oprah. As a matter of fact, she says, create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life because you become what you believe. Another story is a man named Jim Carrey, who in 1985 was struggling to just get by in life. He was not a famous actor then. No one even wanted him for anything. Yet he was determined that he was going to be one of the best. He actually decided to write himself out a check for $10 million and put it for acting services rendered. He put the date for 1994. He carried that check around with him, and when he was discouraged because his goals were so far off, or when he failed again, he would take that out and imagine receiving it. He later got that exact amount for the role he played in Dumb and Dumber. Coincidence? I think not. Did you notice how specific he got? $10 million for acting. The problem some people have is that they don't know what they want. It is hard to get what you want if you don't even know what it is. Remember that scene from Alice in Wonderland where she asks the Cheshire Cat which path she should take? He tells her it depends on where she wants to go. When she says she didn't know, then he told her it didn't matter which path she took. This is a perfect analogy for life. If all your goals and dreams are very vague, you will have a lot less chance of accomplishing them. Imagine if Kennedy would have said, someday it'd be nice to get some sort of living organism somewhere in space. We wouldn't have been the first ones to get a man on the moon. He had clear, distinct goals, and they worked. Another important thing to using our brains to get what we want is to focus more on why we want something than exactly how we are going to get it. This is how Kennedy did it. We didn't have the ability to go to the moon when he set the goal. He set the goal and kept his why in mind and worried about the how later. If you give your mind a big enough why, it will go to work figuring out how you can get what you want. The why is your end goal. It is your ultimate purpose and legacy. Let me show you what I mean. Warren Woodward, who has coached thousands of people to have success in various areas of their lives, teaches a thing called define, learn, do. The problem he finds is that most people in the world do it backward. They switch it to do, learn, define. What this means is that someone decides what they want to do, then they learn how to do it, and then they let that define their life. He says if we want to do it right, we do it the other way around. We define what we want, think vision board. Then we go out and learn not just from anyone, but someone who has accomplished what it is we want to accomplish. You want to learn from people who aren't just better than you, but who actually have the results you are trying to achieve. Then you do what they tell you to, and you get what you want in life. When students are in high school, instead of asking them what they want to do with the rest of their life, it would be better if we asked them what kind of life they even want to have. I'm going to show you what that would look like in 2 different scenarios where we'll say that a couple of teens both enjoy teaching and would like to spend their time doing that. One is asked, "What do you want to do?" He says he wants to be a teacher, and they direct him to programs where he will get an elementary or secondary teaching degree. Then throughout his life, he has a house according to that income, amount of kids, a car. Everything is defined by his choice. Do, learn, define. Now let's take the other kid and instead ask him what kind of life he wants to have. He says that he would like to drive a Tesla, live in a 15,000 square foot house, and have people who do the cooking and cleaning so he can do more important things with his time, like spend it with his family. He wants to go on vacations and put together service programs to help disadvantaged people in countries get the necessities of life. He wants to influence millions of people before he is done. These dreams are his why. They are why he wants to put his best effort into everything he does. He has a purpose bigger than just earning money, which is usually not motivating enough for most people. Find why something is important to you and it will get easier to get it. Well, $10 says that when he gets done giving an answer like that, no one is going to tell him to become a teacher. However, as he thinks about it, teaching really is what he wants to do. So, does he have a dilemma where he either has to do what he loves and have little money or choose something else and be rich? No, he doesn't. Yet there are a lot of people I know who've had this exact debate, and some have chosen one way and others have chosen the other. The problem is, in each case, they didn't quite get what they wanted. This isn't the way it has to be. Let's say he starts to think about how he could have both. He thinks of all the ways that he could teach people. He starts to think about writing a book. Millions could be impacted. He would teach them things to help them get knowledge to improve their lives, and he would have time and money to do the things he wants. Maybe he doesn't like that idea. What about public speaking, he thinks? Again, he could have all those things he dreamed about quite easily. Soon, he has a list of occupations that include him teaching people in some capacity that would also allow him to eventually become a millionaire. To name a few: talk show host, lawyer, judge, personal trainer or dietitian for professional athletes, counselor, coach, movie producer. I could go on and on. Now, he just chooses the one he likes the most, and he does what he loves and has a lifestyle he wants as well. The second kid was given the same formula as the first, in reverse. The first one was told to do, learn, define. What do you want to do? Learn it, let it define the rest of your life. The other one was told to define, learn, do. He was told to define what he wanted, then go learn how to get that, and then do what he had to in order to get there. Same words, but different process and very different results. I want you to think about this. If you could have the perfect day, week, month, and year, what would it look like? Don't think about what is realistic in your limited view now, but how would you really like it to be? What would it really be filled with? How much time would you want to devote to different tasks? Remember, time is measured. You only have so much. So for every moment you end up spending doing something, whether you like it or not, whether you want to do it or not, it takes away from the time you could spend doing something else. How would you really use that time? Define it and write it down. Take control of your life, or your life will control you. Maybe you are well past your teenage years. That is fine. The best time to plant a tree is 15 years ago. The next best time is today. So 15 years ago would have been a great time to define your life and think about your dreams and how to get them. But the next best time is to start now, wherever you are. To give you a little boost on that, let me tell you a couple people who got late starts. Colonel Sanders didn't start the KFC franchise until he was 62. Julia Child hosted her first TV show at 50. Alan Rickman had his first movie role at 46. Susan Boyle started singing all over the world at 47. Henry Ford was 45 when he came out with the Model T Ford. The gap was opened when Donald and Doris were 41, and Laura Ingalls Wilder published her first book when she was 65. Just because you didn't get an early start is not an excuse to not start. Obviously, these people kept believing in their abilities, or else they would have never gotten their dreams. I only put a few people on here who got started later in life, but there are many, many more. If you are older than 40, then you are in a perfect position to get the dreams you have. Decide today to define the life you want, and then figure out how to get it. If there's anything about your life you do not like, whether it deals with money, time, family vacations, health, or whatever, change it. If you are driving a car and you realize you made a wrong turn, you don't just stay on it and figure you'll just see where it takes you. That is a good way to end up in Virginia instead of California. No, you would turn around and change directions. Your life is more important than a road trip. Don't just say, well, I am in 50, so in 15 to 20 years, I can retire. I'll just stick it out. That is 15 to 20 years you could have had the life you wanted. Visualize what you want and go after it. This concept, by the way, is taught in the Bible. It is a true law. Proverbs 29:18 says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he." By the way, take note, they are happy. Having and going after the visions we have for our future life are what keep us going, so we don't perish. Think about it. The person who is happy with their life is more likely to be healthier, to have a better marriage, and to be a better parent. So many things go hand in hand. Our mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional well-being are connected very closely. If one thing goes wrong in one area, then we are more likely to have things go wrong in another. How about another one? Mark 9:23. "If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth." It doesn't say some things are possible, or only that all things are possible for some people if they happen to have the right family or the best talents. No, all things are possible. You were made for greatness. Your brain has the same capacity as others who have done great things. Use your mind, talents, and abilities to accomplish the dreams you have and start living the life you were born to live. Influence the people that you are meant to reach. Your mind is the gateway to success that will open up possibilities that you may only be able to imagine today. Of course, only being able to imagine them is the best place to start.